these issues are not forgotten. And unfortunately, there is a certain cycle of news that are around human rights violations that for a few days or even a few weeks, it's high on the agenda. And then a new story comes up and we forget about the previous one. And I think it's very important for citizens to keep up the attention, to not let issues slip after a few weeks or few months. Of course, a European Union member state cannot, directly force Hungary to change anything, but there are European Union institutions that do have that power. And unfortunately, we see with the current European Commission that they are much less committed to enforcing the rule of law and human rights as the previous Commission was, even though the presidency is the same. I mean, the president of the Commission is the same. The political setup is quite different. The European Parliament seems to be less active towards the Commission. The member states seems to be less active, and we keep hearing from the Commission that that there is no political pressure put on them, and they will only act if there is political pressure. So I think it is crucial to keep up that pressure on European institutions, either as citizens of the EU or as citizens of specific member states for their government to then push the EU institutions.
Thank you very much, Tamás. Any other question? So I will proceed with the other speakers, and we stay focused. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So please, we stay focused on Hungary, and I will come on stage Peter Sarosi, Executive Director, Rights Reporter Foundation, and then also Susanna Zeleni, former member of Hungarian Parliament. Susanna, you'll be next.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Sarosi. I work for a small human rights organization. It's called the Rights Reporter Foundation. We are based here in Budapest, and we mostly work on drug policy and harm reduction. So we have a website. It's called Drug Reporter. We have contents in 3 languages: English, Russian, and Hungarian. And one of the main specialty what we do is video. So we make documentary movies, and we also train students and activists how to use videos for change. So Tamás actually described the Hungarian situation pretty well. So from our perspective, because we work on the drug field, I can also tell you that LGBTQ people are not the only group of society that are repressed and scapegoated right now. In March, the Hungarian government launched the so-called war on drugs, and they wrote into the constitution that it is prohibited to use drugs and also to promote drugs, which practically means that promotion of drugs means for many government officials that you can't use any harm reduction education. The same law which Tamás mentioned, that 2021 homophobic law, which was aiming to protect the children, it did not only ban people, NGOs from sex education in schools, but also drug prevention. So NGOs are not allowed to go to schools to speak about drugs at all right now. There is no government funding for drugs, like addiction care. It's very scarce. And harm reduction is kind of that is mostly law enforcement, very repressive law enforcement. Thousands of Hungarian young people are arrested every year. I think it's the official line of drug policy is very similar to what's happening in Italy now with Maloney. Also with the youth festivals are targeted as dance festivals. And of course, our NGO is also scapegoated and labeled as a kind of Soros agent you know, George Soros is the public enemy #1 in Hungary. And I also like to tell you that it's not only like we are labeled as foreign agents now by this new law on so-called transparency of public sphere, but that international funding is actually less and less available. So it's not only that we're labeled as a Soros agent, but we don't receive any more funding from so it's if we, I mean, for example, at the European Union level, at the European Commission, we used to have a specific funding, specific grant for drug policy initiatives. That is not available anymore. So the the agenda of the European Union is sliding into a more security-oriented agenda, less attention on public health, less attention on social issues, and why we are attacked in Hungary. It's also like even if we could get funding, if this law will not be adopted, it will be very difficult for us to survive because there are no more international grant possibilities. So that I think that would be a very important task to do, to lobby also at the European institutions to have more funding, also funding directly to civil society, more funding opportunities. What you said about creating the kind of special status for organizations at the European level, I fully support that. Because right now, if this law will be adopted, you know, I don't know how much you followed these discussions, but now it was postponed to September. This new law that would actually effectively block us from receiving foreign funds and domestic funds. But if this will be adopted, then several NGOs will be forced to leave the country and register an organization in another country, and so that will be a huge problem. I also wanted to tell you a few data, because child protection is always in the forefront of repressing civil society, and also the war on drugs and the war on LGBT people is in the name of protecting the kids. And our prime minister is always very concerned about the children. Let's protect the children from seeing half-naked people on the street. But at the same time, I think in Hungary we have a lot of things to be concerned about if it comes to children. Around 1 in 4 Hungarian children, about 430,000 children, grow up in deep poverty, and their proportion is increasing in Hungary. The number of children considered at risk is more than 100,000 in Hungary. 8 out of 10 abused children are abused in their own families, so not by any strangers. An estimated 400,000 children are growing up with parents with addictions. And as I described you, the addiction care system is almost non-existent in Hungary. And hundreds of babies remain stuck in hospitals right now because they don't find families to take care of them. And these kids will grow up with childhood trauma for all of their lives. More young people use drugs right now in Hungary, in the country of zero tolerance and restrictive drug policies than in any other European countries, according to the latest data of the European School Survey. Our public education is in crisis, so there are no teachers in schools. It happens that a teacher of music teaches the class for mathematics because there is no teacher. And also the child protection system itself is in ruin in Hungary. So there were very famous or very highly publicized cases of child abuse in Hungary. Just the latest was, one of the latest was that President Katalin, they pardoned a convicted criminal who was covering up child abuse scandal in a state-run child protection institution. And recently, the director of a child care center was arrested because he was accused of human trafficking. He was selling 14-year-old girls from his institution to sex trafficking, and he was very close to the government. So he was portrayed in the pro-government media as the protector of Christian conservative values. So that shows a lot, like, about the deeply rotten core of this system, and a lot of I mean, if you look at the mental health care system, it's also in very bad shape. So children have to wait almost a year to get into children's psychiatric care. So there are a lot of things to be concerned about when it comes to children in Hungary. So it would be also good that you are aware of that. That it's like now not only that that our government is scapegoating the wrong people for protecting children, but it's also that they don't care all about children. They really don't care about that. And most another problem is also Tamás described is the media situation, that most of the Hungarian media is in the hands of the Hungarian government. It's controlled by the Hungarian government. So about these facts will not go public, and most people will not learn about this. And there is no public money going on these issues because most of the EU funding is going to enrich a small number. Friend of the Prime Minister, was a former gas pipe fitter. He became the richest man of Hungary in 2 years due to public procurement money. Billions of forints are going to them. And also, like the son-in-law of the Prime Minister is also among the richest men in Hungary right now. So that tells a lot. I also think that this issue and these problems in Hungary, these are not only Hungarian problems. This is the problem of the whole European Union. Often we discuss whether Orban wants to leave the European Union. I don't think he wants to conquer the European Union. He wants to conquer it from the inside. He has these ambitions, and he has a chance to do that. And this is like a cancer that needs to be stopped. I'm not sure if the Article 7 would say would be the kind of final solution in this struggle. What I really believe is that we need, everybody in the European Union needs to support a vibrant civil society, because that's the real essence of keeping democracies alive. And this means financial support, and this means also moral support, or show solidarity to us, and also a way for us to survive. Like that, if this new repressive law will be enacted, a lot of Hungarian NGOs need to find a way how to operate further. So we will need a lot of practical help to how to do that. So this is it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Is there any question actually? One thing I would like to underline about Peter's speech is that the proposal about the introduction of a European association, as Peter said, could be very useful for the Hungarian situation, to allow RNG to receive funding, even though the proposal of law, in spite of the proposal of law that is being presented. In the Human website, you can find an article that will circulate after this assembly about why we should create such a thing as a European association. And there's been a proposal in the European Parliament in previous legislature, but now the numbers in the Parliament are even more difficult to find to pass such a law. That is precisely why I think we should push as citizens to have this European association. And I hope that after this assembly, we will have time to discuss even if maybe a petition or another kind of instrument could be useful to ask for and campaign for the European Association together with the citizens and organizations that will that are participating together to this event. So I will now, if there are no questions, one question actually. There is one question, but please come here because otherwise they cannot see you on Zoom. But it's all right. Come.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. Now, yeah, I heard so many sanctions and discriminatory policies. So what happened? Are there penalties? How is your prison? So do people go to prison because of these violations?
Do you mean the child abuse issues? Or?
Yeah. Everything. The product of repression. So do people go to jail?
For drug offenses or what?
Yeah, for drug offenses, for
Yeah, I mean,
being connected with democratic forces or LGBT community.
you know, Hungary is still not Russia. We used to say to ourselves, this is still not Russia. You know, the black car is still not coming to take you because in the 50s in Hungary, we have this history, you know, that in the Stalinist era, people were just taken from street to the secret police and abused and tortured. This is not happening now. But it's also misleading to only think that this is only I mean that we still have democracy only because we don't go to prison. I think the current autocracies have more sophisticated ways to repress freedom. They don't need tanks. They don't need so much, you know, terror, open terror. What they have is propaganda machine, a huge propaganda machine. So they can just completely morally kill you in the public, like, you know, like they destroy your character if you resist them. There is also this repressive laws. I think that apart from the practical impact, there is a chilling effect. So nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to work with you in the country if you are among those blacklisted organizations. So you find yourself in a kind of isolated bubble without air, because no, you cannot go to the media, you can't really apply for public funding. So many organizations just shut down because of that. We don't go to prison yet. Hope we will not. So the European Union, I think, still needs some kind of protection. We are in a more privileged position than like in Georgia. Yes, like we are more privileged, that's for sure, than in Russia, for example, where people are imprisoned for what we do, for example. But at the same time, it is very effective, this system of some people call it informational autocracy, what they have.
Thank you, Peter.
We have changed up the format. Question of the meeting.
So, thank you again, Peter Sarosi. And now I will announce the next three speakers. Susanna Zeleny from the CU Democracy Institute and former member of the Hungarian Parliament. Elena Buscemi, president of the Milan City Council. And then Ophelie Masson, which is deputy director of European Affairs. Elena, Susanna, sorry, too many names.
I am sitting in a chair, so I listen to anything you say. So, welcome to Budapest. It's nice to see you here, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Niccolò, for inviting me. And thank you for Peter and Tamás for their introductory comments. So I don't know exactly which countries are you from, but I'm trying to figure out. And so I am a former politician. I actually studied with Fidesz together with Viktor Orbán. So I am his generation, and I was a member of parliament at a very young age together with Orbán and many other collaborators. It was a revolutionary period in Hungary in the late 80s and the transformation to democracy. Now, I left Hungarian politics, which for various reasons, specifically Fidesz party in mid-90s, and I was working for 15 years at the Council of Europe on Democracy Development and Human Rights Education. And then I came back to Hungarian politics. So in the last 15 years, I'm back in Hungary, and I was again as an opposition politician in Hungarian parliament. So I saw this country rising as a fantastic liberal democratic country, and I witnessed firsthand how it's starting to fall. And now we are in the 15th years of this fall of liberal democracy within the European Union. So now I'd like to say a couple of words about the systemic nature of what you are seeing in this country. So what can you learn from here? Then I would like to say a few words about what is this issue with this event, actually. So why is it happening? Niccolò asked me earlier, what do they want with this, right? And then finally, I have a couple of ideas to share with you, kind of suggestions, proposals, which might be interesting for you. So I think Tamás and Peter told many fascinating concrete stories about how Hungary looks like at the moment. It's actually very difficult to imagine, even from Slovakia or Austria, so from our own neighbors, because this hybrid regime. It looks like a democracy, but it's actually not. It's a systematically growing autocracy with one leader, with one party's leadership in position, which is also capturing over the years the entire public administration, the state system, the judiciary, the checks and balances institutions in Hungary. So this is how it started. It was very strategic and very targeted. Then there were all the actors of democracy under challenge, the civil society organizations, specifically the ones, not all of them, the ones which were there to check the regime, the system, the government, the watchdog organizations, the human rights organizations, the transparency organizations, women's movement, LGBT movements. So all those who were for rights and for checking the system. So that was very much so started about like more than 10 years actually. So it's not new here. We are living with this for 15 years and gathering an incredible wealth. So this government from European Union funding specifically, we're creating a completely new business elite in this country. This business elite, as Peter mentioned, it's closely tied with the governing party, so it's basically one elite. They are very forceful, very powerful. Moreover, this government, this political party Fidesz, has a supermajority, which constitutional majority, which violence, and I think this is what we can expect today, because they can change any law anytime within 3 days. They changed the constitution and they amended their own constitution for 15 years. So that is actually want to say earlier that this is, you don't need dictatorship in order to exercise over, need a lot of money for that. So money and political power combination is very important, and you need to monopolize media and create a propaganda campaign, which is under the social media environment. It's cheap, it's easy, it's possible. So you are sure. So this is this playbook. It can be adapted anywhere. It can be adapted in the United States. So what we see there now, it's not the Hungarian pattern. It is the new autocratic pattern, which creates autocratic system in a democratic framework. And this is why it's very important for all of you to know this, because it can happen in any countries in Europe. If political elite of any kind of party decides that they will use their power for these purposes. So now this is This was one. So why is it for today? Why did they ban pride after 30 years? They did not have any problem with this. Of course, as Tamás mentioned, there were plenty of ways how they started to target LGBT community. So, but this is also a part of a playbook, a broader narrative of intolerance politics, far-right politics specifically, the anti-gender, anti-intellectual, anti-LGBT, everything which is not considered to be normal according to some kind of hierarchy view is under attack. So this is why the LGBT community was also chosen as one of the enemies. It's not the only one. Women are also, who are too well educated and don't make enough children, are also targeted, and plenty of other groups in society are targeted. And the problem is, and I already indicate one of the problems, which you can think about, that these groups do not typically don't work together. They don't collaborate. So they go under pressure, or they suffer from various pressures like universities, because they are representing intellectuals and knowledge production, human rights organizations of different kinds. Everyone is concerned of their own issues only. And this is a problem. This we can demonstrate to you, Hungary, how weak all this opposition was in the last 15 years, and mainly because this collaboration has not started from the first day. So because everyone will be on the agenda after a while, who is not conforming with this hierarchy vision of an autocratic system. So this is what first and foremost suggested to me. Solidarity should be taken very seriously, because everyone will be on the plate of their system at some point. Another thing, and I'm very happy to see this is a citizen assembly, because I'm doing a lot of support work in these days, and citizen assemblies and education, how to do this for public administrators, specifically local levels, is on our agenda. And the citizens assembly, as it looks like in Europe, or the concept, should be together with the power holders, right? Citizens come together, discuss issues, and then make judgments. Well, if there is no, the receiving part is not there, then what do? And I would like to propose you to think also into this context, because citizens can get together, without being listened, and then they have to figure out how to push their ideas towards those decision makers who are not interested to listen to them. This is an issue. So this seems to be like an initiative like this. So I'm really very happy to be here with you now. So the other thing is that we are not just in Hungary, but in many other countries. This is a global autocratization movement. So it's not just a playbook; it's a movement. They regard themselves as a revolutionary transitioning force, saying that the world become too globalized, too liberal, too open, anti-democratic. So there is a counter movement we are facing. So civic organizations of any kind should think politically. So what does this mean? It sounds so dangerous, think politically. It's not. Politically means that you think strategically. You understand what those who are against you, or who you put you as an enemy on their agenda, why do they do this? What's their purpose behind? What's their narrative? And think strategically what to do with this situation, and avoid their traps, and do new narrative, innovate, figure out new techniques. Nothing what many of you did in 5-10 years before is valid any longer, because they know you better than you know these new autocrats. They are the innovative force in Europe today. As Tamás Peter said, Orbán wants to conquer the European Union from within. And he is not the only one. Well, he may be the only prime minister, but there are a huge range of political parties in all of European countries present, and they are wonderfully aligned, even if they don't agree in many things. So alliance building should be strategic. You don't have to agree. Probably we don't agree in many things, right? But if you have something and you understand what also have to work with political parties, what way you have to figure out, right? Maybe you don't march them together because civil society wants to distance themselves from politics. But you know, oftentimes they are on your side, which happened to me when I was in politics. So these are the kind of strategic things for figuring out what way of collaborations are necessary, what are the best innovations. Experiment all the time, every day, and you can learn a lot from Hungarian civil society, because this is what we are doing for 15 years. And I think it's just really nice to talk to one another and learn from one another. And, yeah, we really need to be more strategic and more collaborative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susanna. A lot of lessons learned, and now we will proceed different for the next round of speeches. We will go later with questions because we have some speakers on the rush, and I would like to ask Brando Benifei, member of the European Parliament from the SND group, and right after we will have Elena Buscemi from the City Council of Milan. Yes, sorry. And of course, Brando, thank you very much. I know you had a very full agenda, so thanks for being with us to speak about democracy.
Organizations that we see are organizing this assembly. I want to thank Marco for inviting me and telling me, please come and spread the word about this moment, which is very timely, I would say, and very useful, because later I will gather with my political party. But as it was said by the previous speaker, I don't think this can be only a topic and an issue, rule of law and freedom in this country, that involves only the European parties, but it must involve and connect the European civil society and the European organizations as such, and the European cities. I know I arrived very, very late yesterday, so I didn't go, but the Budapest mayor organized a meeting where other cities are there. Here I see friends like Diana De Marchi and Elena Buscemi. I know also we have a regional councillor from Lombardy, Paolo Romano, who is here. So we have people from local institutions and civil society. I have to say that I still have to figure out what Orban will do today, because I have a suspect. Because 3 years ago, I was here at the Budapest Pride when civil society from Hungary asked us to be present to avoid the Pride to be infiltrated with violence. It was not forbidden. It's not like now. Now it became a larger issue also of preventing any form of demonstration. But last time, in the end, Orban tried to give the message that in the end, everything was okay, that he intimidated, but in the end, the march happened. I'm not sure what happens today with the counter protest, because we have fascists that are assembling around the city. And what I've seen tells me that maybe the strategy now will be to try to let them, I mean, disturb, if I may say, I hope not more than that, the Pride March, and show that Orban is still in charge, because he's in a different position compared to a few years ago. A few years ago, his strength was still very high, and the bid to beat him at the time, Coscioni, the mayor of Budapest, was a possible candidate against him, but he was still very strong, Orban, and he won again the elections. This time, his grip on Hungarian society seems to be losing, seems to be waning. And so I'm worried that he could be trying to create incidents in a way that he can say, I warned that this could happen, and at the same time not take full responsibility. So it's very important, I think, that organized civil society and the institutional representatives are here from all over Europe to, in fact, protect the fundamental freedoms of assembly, of demonstration, and of expression in all forms. I'm saying that coming from Italy, where I see a worrying regression on this. We have a security decree that was approved recently by the Italian government that is trying to take, I would say, the slow lane towards urbanism, because this is the tactic. I was myself protesting before being a member of the European Parliament around I think it was 12 years ago in France. I was myself the vice president of this pan-European Young Socialist Network, and so me and other activists from other youth movements were invited to protest in front of the parliament. Orban has taken power at the time only for a short time, and he was intimidating journalists using bureaucracy excuses to close newspapers and to prevent some actions from parliamentarians. It looks like a bit what we see gradually happening in some of the countries, and it's only 10, 12 years ago. So that's why I say we need to be here to send a clear message. We don't want this and nothing getting close to this anywhere in Europe, and we want to be sure that in Europe, fundamental freedoms are respected. And that's why, and I conclude on this, I say that as a member of European Parliament, I am really disappointed by the attitude of the European Commission, which, as there was the risk of escalation of the tension in the last 48 hours, it moved a bit, and the commissioner will be here, but I think it could have acted much before, and it's unfortunately reflecting a changing political mentality all over the European institutions and in the European context, with the growth of extreme nationalist forces at the heart of many of our member states. But I think that in fact it's the European institutions and the European civil society that must be united in defending our fundamental principles, our Charter of Fundamental Rights. We cannot follow a, I hope, temporary political wind that is moving away from protecting fundamental freedoms. So that's why it's important to be here. That's why it was important to have an assembly like this. And I want to thank all the organizations for the effort to be here and be close to the Hungarian civil society that also is here, so that we can show that we want Europe to go forward and not go back. We want to, in fact, have a stronger agenda on fundamental freedoms in Europe and not instead go back from where we are today. Thank you very much.
Grazie, Brando. Thank you very much. Elena Buscemi, President of the City Council of Milan, and I know there is also an alliance, existing alliance of cities for civil liberty. So we will tell you more about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you for your effort. I'm here today in Budapest representing the municipality of Milan, and it is a great honor for me. I'm sure that cities can do a lot of rights and make their voices heard. Network of cities are very important and crucial. So I would like to mention the pact of 3 cities that is really important because cities can stand for democratic vocation. So I'm really glad to know that a lot of cities are represented today in Budapest. Like many other Europe cities, Milan has responded to the mayor calls because today we are protesting for the protection of civil rights and European values. So today, Budapest is the center for the fight for the rights against all forms of discrimination. And we are standing for democracy, for inclusion, and for freedom. Today, I am in Budapest, but 1 month ago, I was in Kiev on the occasion for the European Day, because I believe that it's time to be in the places and with the people who are fighting for what Europe represents in the world. These are places close to us, even physically, as the evidence of how democracy and rights we take for granted are threatened by the growing of authoritarian, populist, and right-wing drift. And this drift is heavily influencing international politics. So I want to remind everyone here that the Meloni government is one of the few European governments that has not spoken out against the law that banning Pride in Hungary. And for this reason, I really do believe that the demands in Hungary, in Italy, and across Europe can be stronger through the recognition of the legal status of the European Association. So I really strongly agree with your proposal, and I thank you for your effort and for organizing this assembly. Thank you.
And before continuing with speakers, now we have time for some questions, if there is any. Okay. Otherwise, we can go on. I would like to ask Niccolò Milanese from European Alternative, Director of European Alternatives. Yes, of course. Sorry. Today I'm struggling with too many names. And thank you very much, Niccolò, because of course, as a co-organizer, European Alternative is doing a lot to also make possible this event.
Thanks, Lorenzo. So I have 3 points to make, I think. The first one is that we have learned over the past decade or decade and a half that, regrettably, our political leaders in Europe can't be relied on to guarantee our fundamental rights, freedom and well-being without a great deal of citizen mobilization and pressure. The issues we heard about in the speeches up until now are issues that have been clearly identified and tendencies that have been clearly identified by civil society for a couple of decades now. Those of us, several of us here were involved in campaigning when it comes to media concentration in Italy and Berlusconi and saying, look, if you allow this to happen in Italy, other countries are going to follow. The use of surveillance, which is a dangerous aspect of what's going to happen today, has been growing in European countries over the past couple of decades, the scapegoating of minorities and so on and so forth. These tendencies have been there, and any small actions we've seen, and thankfully there have been growing numbers of actions on the European scale, as well as in some countries, have come only as the result of coordinated civil society activity and citizens' pressure. So I think we have to keep this history in mind. We can show our disappointment in the European Commission, notably for not being stronger in what happened today, but we can also, I think, take some encouragement from the number of European politicians that have come to Budapest today. This is a different situation than it was in the past couple of years, and it's only the result of the pressure that we have put on them. So that's to say that a citizens' assembly is important today. It's one of the reasons why we joined with Eumans in wanting to organize it. Second point is that there's an increasing tendency to want to push all kinds of political discussion behind closed doors. That's also an aspect of what the surveillance is about today. Yes, you can participate, but we're going to watch you. It would be better if you did it in private. And I fear that our politics across Europe is increasingly becoming privatized and closed. Marco and Lorenzo here can speak about how difficult it was to find a place to do this here today. And unfortunately, that's not only the situation in cities like Budapest. If you want to have a political discussion about the Middle East in Berlin these days, difficult to find a venue. I can tell you. So this closing of the spaces in which democracy is possible, the privatization of democracy, of course, serves the enemies of democracy above all. This is something we need to be particularly attentive to. Thirdly, on the European association status, European Alternatives has been working on that for a couple of decades by now. I think that it is an appropriate response. There are many good reasons for a European association status, including increasing the ease of operations of associations across Europe, the ease of being able to employ people, being able to make payments, deal with VAT, all very technical kinds of issues, which the European Union should be interested in because it wants a single market. But there's also a democratic case for European associations, and there's at least two aspects to it. One is, how on earth can we have a European democracy if we can't join together in associations democratically across Europe? No, you have to be members of different national associations to eventually join. You should be able to be a member directly of a European association as a European citizen. So there's a democratic case for it. There's also a practical case in situations like this, where the operations of civil society organizations are under threat. And one aspect of that is that European association status would allow an association to change its legal address to different countries without losing continuity of its legal status. That is something that is already possible with the other statuses that are created in European law. There's such a thing as a European economic interest grouping, for example, created for companies that want to join together. As the name suggests, it's not made with civil society in mind, it's something for companies. It allows those companies to change their headquarters if they want, but to keep the legal continuity in all the countries they operate. Same thing works with European cooperative status, which exists now for several decades. Why is there not an equivalent status for civil society? It would be practically useful in situations like this. You continue to operate in Hungary, but not have to have your headquarters in, move to another country. This is something that, as I say, already exists for other categories of organizations. The European Union could very easily adopt it here. Lastly, I want to echo what Marco said, that there's a huge amount, and I met various people who've been involved in organizing Pride yesterday, there's an enormous amount of energy that has been put into making possible this, I think, historic moment of citizens standing up for democracy and the right to be who they are. But it's doubly important that the day afterwards, those people get a rest, but the rest of us continue the struggle. And we have to, in this assembly, I think of practical ways that we make sure that the connections that are made here, that the energy that is made here, that the positive messages of joy and life and pride that come out of here, that are the attractive politics, the hopeful politics that people respond to, want to be part of, how that is communicated, spread and built upon right across our continent and beyond. That's our obligation this morning and today and tomorrow. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Niccolò. Is there any question actually on? Okay. I think this campaign is something we really need to build together, especially on European association. And I would now give the floor to two speakers from Volt. One is Lauren Dassen, who's also a member of the Dutch Parliament. So thank you very much for being with us. And then be ready, Francesca Romana Antonio, co-president of Volt Europe. Lauren.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today. I arrived yesterday in Hungary, and I met already so much inspiring people that indicate that this is the time to really stand up for the values that we all share within the European Union. And that's also the reason why I'm here. because if you want to be a value-based union, you have to stand up for those values if they are being repressed everywhere. And that's also why I'm happy why different politicians from different countries are here today. And what we've seen, it was just mentioned that democracy is being more privatized, but there's also the opposite happening, that the anti-democrat is being more exposed and has a bigger megaphone than a few years ago. And I want to give a small example how it's interrelated everything, because today also our mayor from Amsterdam is marching on the Pride to show solidarity. And we have the biggest friend of Orban from the Netherlands is Geert Wilders. He is the party leader of the far right. It's the biggest party at the moment in the Dutch parliament. He was also invited to form a coalition with more moderate parties. And I mean, he tweeted yesterday that he told Orban that he was hoping that the mayor of Amsterdam would not come back to the Netherlands. And I mean, this type of aggression, of putting everything against the values that we share, is something that is very disturbing. And what we've seen here in Hungary over the last 15 years is something that any country, and was already mentioned before. And then I think we should also stand up as European citizens, not only pointing towards the institution, but also saying for ourselves that this is the time that we do not accept anymore that politicians are willing to break down the rule of law, or break down the democracy, and are breaking down the values that we share together and that we have been sharing together for so long. And if I see that in 2010, Jean-Claude Juncker, the dictator, afterwards almost nothing happened in order to stop him. I mean, still the funds were flowing, still Article 7 hasn't been really pushed forward to. And also, up until this moment, only Ursula von der Leyen posted one video saying that the Pride must continue. That's too little. If you say that you want to be a value-based union, then you really have to speak up, then you really have to stand up. And that's something that we are not doing enough. And I mean that you need to organize this event in a place that you really had to search for, that's absurd, that's crazy. And I just heard that the far right here in Hungary is blocking trains, is blocking bridges. I mean, that's the reason that we are here together now, to stand up and say we will not accept. The future is made within Europe, but the future has to be an open, free where everyone can be the person that does not accept autocrats saying that we cannot be who we want to be. And I'm very happy that I can be part of this today. And I hope it will be a beautiful day, and that it will also send a strong signal to anyone in Europe, anyone in Hungary, that we are part of the same union, that we stand for the same values, and that we will resist the fight towards the autocrats together. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. We keep on with another intervention from Volt, directly from the co-president of Volt, actually, Francesca Romana D'Antuono.
Hello, 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 everyone. So good to be here. A little disclaimer before I speak. When I speak about things I care, I tend to get emotional. So it is possible that at a certain point my voice goes, oh, please don't mind me, like just act cool. But no, jokes aside, this is not a joke, it's true. I am super happy to be here. And today, I'm not here to protest Orban. I'm here to support the Hungarian people. I think today this should be our focus. This should be our focus because we're talking about the life of people that live here and how they can or cannot shape the future they want to live in. And I know it's a subtle difference, but I really would like to put the spotlight on them and not on the oppressor. Now, this is a citizen assembly, so it's a perfect venue to talk about the citizens of Hungary. I read a statistic that said that the people from Budapest are the most pro-European in Europe, in the whole of Europe. How cool is that? Isn't that unbelievable? And then you look at Hungary, and where I come from, and I guess where you also come from, Hungary is always like, Hungary, things are not going good there. But still, there is a lighthouse, there is a beacon of hope. The point to me, though, that we need to ask ourselves, not only here in this country, but also where I come from, and also in so many other European countries, is what is it that makes people from city centers normally more progressive and people from rural area less progressive? And what is the role of people that are engaged as we are? I don't know if you're a politician, if you're just an activist, if you were just passing by and decided to sit down, it doesn't matter. What is the role that we have as civil society to bridge the gap? Now, I come from a very tiny village in southern Italy, which is normally considered super, super conservative. And it kind of is. But I also know that the people that live there are normal people. They they greet you, they love you, they welcome you. And then when it comes to voting, places like that, they vote the far right. So what is our role? What is that we need to do? Are we really speaking to them? Now, I don't want to say that this is all just regular citizens' responsibility, right? In the last elections year, for example, the opposition had a total of 6 minutes combined on TV compared to, well, the people that were in power. Is that a fair campaign? No, of course. This is a deeply problematic system. Marco before mentioned what is happening in Germany. I was living there just 6 months ago. I lived there for 4 years. It's a place I love. My son is born there. I will always love Germany. But it is true that the moment you want to talk about Gaza, the moment you want to talk about Palestine, democracy, yeah, but maybe just, just don't do it. Let's not talk about it, or the repression that we saw in Berlin was really crazy. And my son has a Muslim family name, so you can imagine how that was worrisome for me. But you don't have to be affected directly to be able to stand up when you see injustice. So the wish, or the input I want to give all of you is, given that we do live in systems that are shifting more and more to closed system, to not authoritarianism necessarily, but going very far right. Given that that exists and there are people that can act on that, and that's great. What can we do? Maybe next time around, that is for you, Marco. Maybe next time around we should do this meeting in a little town in Hungary somewhere else. I give you this challenge because I know you can pull off a lot of very cool things, and maybe we should meet there and just talk to these people. And I'm sure we will discover that they don't hate us. They don't hate gay people, lesbian people, transgender people. They really just don't know what we're talking about, and they're fed propaganda because the people who are talking to them now is the right, is the far right. And in times of uncertainties, it's just normal to listen to those who seem to care for you. So let's care a little bit more for them all together. Today we will march in beautiful Budapest, and that's fantastic, but let's make this a start of a new movement in which we don't only visit capital cities, we also visit small areas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Francesca, also for bringing some energy from southern Italy. Now one thing, important information, service information for those who didn't register. At the entrance, you will find a pen and someone, Andrea, who can register in case you didn't, but probably you already did. Now, we were speaking about also democracy and international justice. So I really would like to have a speech from No Peace Without Justice, who's also dealing with this issue since many years. I see that Niccolò is here, and also Tara, president of No Peace Without Justice, she was here until a moment ago. Okay, so Niccolò, in the meantime, if you want to go, and then maybe if we have Tara, please tell us.
Thank you. I can't fill Tara's shoes, but I'm not going to make a speech. But but I'm very happy to share some reflections. I think we're in a different time than we were 20 years ago, in a different time than we were 40 years ago. And of course, you know, times change. I think the difference, and I think it was highlighted very well by our Hungarian colleagues, the difference is that the revolutionaries who are the movements, ones who are advancing from the margin to the mainstream, is the other guys. And they're using our methods, you know. I've first seen it in Mali, where, you know, large groups of women were marching on the streets, demonstrating against women's rights, filling up the stadium. They're using our methods. They're using information. They're using social media, which we heralded as the new way of peer-to-peer discussion. Not hierarchical, but peer-to-peer with thoughts. And mechanism and the tools of democracy, including electrical which is not but it is what the shortest approximation in some ways, and the one that turns will of the people into power of those elected. So I think the Fidesz, former Fidesz politician who came to us, sorry, I don't have a name. Susan very clearly stated, we were a revolution. Now they've taken the revolution and taken it some other way. It reminds me of Iran somehow. But that doesn't mean that we're powerless. Okay, and it doesn't mean that the law is for nothing. And this is something that strikes me in particular about international. You know, international law is violated with more impunity now than before. Not really, with more open impunity. You used to hide the crimes, now you flog them. You flog them because you want to show that you're immune to the norms. And but that doesn't mean that international law does not exist, right? And it is dangerous to say, but what's the law for if people are doing this and that? It's like saying, you know, people are passing with red light, let's switch off the traffic lights. It's not how it works. And compliance requires respect of the fact that there are norms. Compliance with human rights, with fundamental freedoms, requires, first of all, acknowledgement and recognition that those norms count for something. Okay, so my reflection goes in two directions. One, we have the same tools. Okay, and if they're using them in a certain directions, we have the same. I mean, the speaker before me was from Volt. Volt, you know, did not exist only a few years ago, and it didn't have access to television or the mainstream media, and now it exists as a European political force, purely on the strength of willing to organize and willing to put themselves out in the streets and knocking on doors and talking to people, including increasingly, hopefully more, in rural areas. Now, I'm not saying necessarily, you know, I'm not espousing vote. I mean, I never had a chance to vote for vote. But what I'm saying is the tools are there. So, and I think they are there, and they are not in the hands of the President of the European Commission. The tools are there, and they're in the hands of individual citizens if they're organized if they get together on things they agree on. So this, you know, my message is a message of recognition that, you know, the trend is in the opposite direction, but also can see that we have the same tools, we have the capacity, we have the willingness. All we need is to exercise that will in practice and you know, put it in the streets, put it in the mail, into our, you know, Twitter, maybe X, Facebook, I don't know. Talk to each other and get it out there. And today is about that. Today is exactly about that. Today is about saying, you know, Wizz Air delayed my flight by 2 hours, but I didn't give up. I'm here, and I think that's worth something. And the second message is on the rule of law. Violations and defiance of the law should not lead us to think there is no law. And I hear too many times human rights activists who bemoan the loss of the rule of law, bemoan the inexistence of ineffectiveness of international law, particularly in the face of atrocities that we see going on today, you know, in Europe or on the Mediterranean. If we say there's no law, then they've won. So that's not the way to approach it. And I think we have to insist on compliance, first of all, by recognizing that the violation is a violation is a violation. And it needs to be acknowledged. Voilà. Thank you very much. Cara will do much better.
Okay, thank you very much, Niccolò. Thank you very much. We really needed that deepen moment of reflection also on international justice. And from now on, we will have the last two speeches from Ophelie Masson, deputy member of the European Alternatives, and myself also for closing remarks. Then we will have an open mic session. So feel free to join the assembly with your question, reflection, and we will be very happy to discuss with you in a more interactive way.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorenzo. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ophelie Masson. I'm the Deputy Director of European Alternatives. I'm also an LGBTQI activist. So it makes sense even more, I think, to be here 2 times with those 2 hats, let's say. Okay, out of curiosity, let's say, I want to play a little game or a question, if you will. I'm going to ask to the straight allies in the room. Usually when you go on a date, let's say the second or third date with someone, what do you like to do with them? What kind of activity do you like to do?
Okay, I don't know if we can say.
To eat? Okay, yes, of course, that's a good one. Yes. What else? Cinema. Yeah, that's good. Good activity. Okay.
Is it an option?
It's an option. It's an option. Okay, well, with my partner on our third date, what we did is that we went to the police station. We went to the police station to file a complaint because we had been harassed on the street. That was our third date activity. To give you an idea, I really didn't wish that was a program at the time, trust me. As Francesca from Volt mentioned before, hi Francesca, I think it's important that we remind ourselves when we march this afternoon that we are here to support the LGBTQ community first, even if we're not necessarily part of it directly, and especially the Hungarian ones, because of course we're here to show solidarity and support right now when we're here physically, but tomorrow most of us are going to leave, and Monday they are on their own again. I know that we say that we want to keep going. Of course, some of us are active in a political way at the EU level or in our national countries. But the reality is that on Monday, again, they're on their own. That's the case for the main organizers of Budapest Pride. That's the case for also any other organization mobilized on social rights and human rights in Hungary. And that's something that I think we should really keep in mind, because I want you also to take into consideration the toll that this takes on those people, whether they are paid to do that job or not, because there's also a reality that it relies a lot on volunteers and activists. Okay, we've heard that these issues, the threats on the LGBTQI community, the threats on civil society, the threat on media freedom is something that is happening in Hungary, but not just. We see other examples very directly in Slovakia right now happening. We see the same in Italy, for instance, just to name a few. We've also seen the same in France. I'm French, so I know the context a bit better. And for instance, this started during COVID times, the use of an article of the Constitution called 49.3. And thanks to that article, basically, the government found a way to make any kind of law pass in a fast-forward way without needing parliament approval. So I would like to, after we heard all these realities across the Union, so transnational struggles, I would like for us also to think of solutions, because, okay, we know what's happening. What do we want to do about it? And I think we have to think of how do we do this, whether we're a member of the European Parliament. We have Brando Benifei with us before. Their legislative powers are quite limited. So there's also a reality of the weakening of those institutions. So there's the work that still can be done there. There's the work that, of course, the European Commission must do. We saw Commissioner Hajjalabi coming to Budapest yesterday. She faced a not so warm welcome from civil society, because the truth is that the Commission has been completely silent on the word of order of von der Leyen, of course. And the fact that she's here as Commissioner for Equality is good, but it's a bit late. And the reality is that she did a not so convincing speech, if I may. But not much is going to happen legislatively speaking after this. We see the same with, for instance, the negotiations on the reform of the EU-Israel agreement. It's the same. There's just no hard decisions being taken by the Commission. So there's that. Then there's a level of course, we know that ultimately it's the Council that can make the shots. That's the truth, in my opinion. So at the level of the Council, how do we make sure that we continue advocating at a national level? Because it seems to be the most efficient and direct way these days. Not saying that we should stop advocating at EU level at all. Don't make me say what I didn't say, but still. So how do we keep on advocating at a national level, which I believe is the main route of action that we can take, because also it's the most, it's the fastest. And when we talk about the future of democracy, it's not actually so much in the future. The same goes for the national, the climate crisis. It's not really for the future. It's not really for our kids or the future generations. It's now, it's today. So when it comes to the threats on democracy, it is today. And so the national route seems to be the fastest one. That would be my call, I think, for you as the activists that you are, if you define yourselves as such. I think that now is the time to be again involved in our national networks to defend our democracy. Thank you.
There is to discuss. Be prepared, please. Also, if you want, if you're interested after this final speeches, to have also a presentation. If you want to introduce yourself, we are very happy to have this interactive moment for the final part of the event. So before I go to the conclusion, I finally see that Tara O'Grady is here with us, president of No Peace Without Justice, and many other things. So please, Sarah, join us.
Thanks very much, Lorenzo. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's absolutely delightful to see you all here together. to see the shared solidarity that we have together. I am president of Non Ci Pace Senza Giustizia. I'm very proud to be at the helm with my brothers and sisters in our organization, having struggled very hard over recent years for multiple things which are common to many organizations and movements for activism to try to make the world a better place. I regrettably missed the section that you have just had on Gaza and Palestine. I fell victim to needing coffee, and so I never thought that I would, but I did. I work in my capacity with No Peace as president, and apart from that, like so many of us, we also work with other initiatives outside of our professional scope, if you like. And one of those for me has been in the last few months. I was part of the flotilla campaign, part of the flotilla campaign in Malta, which was bombed off the coast of Europe. And I heard no European country, state, institution condemning this attack, which had happened so close to our countries, just in our region. Subsequently, I went with the flotilla also to Sicily, and we had arguably it was successful that we managed to sail. The difference in Sicily was that we had an overwhelming public support where people from the villages came with bags of flour and rice hoisted on their shoulders down to the harbour, boxes of medicine on their heads to contribute towards the inventory on the boat. And it was really a very beautiful time of solidarity between us. Also, with regards to climate, I had the immense opportunity to be with Chief Raoni in the Amazon rainforest 2 years ago, to listen to the tribes as they spoke to each other, to speak about climate change, climate justice, the threats that they face from being killed. Having one of our colleagues had joined us at the United Nations just in preceding months and was found 3 days after he arrived home to Brasilia, drowned in the Amazon. And just to spare a moment for him. But these things are elements of subjugation that the tribes suffer every single day. There are parts of the Amazon that have been killed, so the fish are dead, which means that the villages that would have been on that particular part of the Amazon have no way of feeding themselves. The desert has, as you drive from the airport that I went into, I didn't fly over the Amazon, I drove through, and you see the ground being turned into dust. There's nothing to sustain life whatsoever. So all of the companies like Monsanto who have their GMO exercises for soy in that region are killing, murdering the land. And these massive machines that I saw moving through the red stripes of desert are, to me, merely another war machine that is being used to kill people in what some may consider a soft war, but it is doing just as much harm. And indeed, because of the crop spoilage and the eradication of any access to water for fertilization or for irrigation for the crops, they are killing swathes of humanity. And we, in the next few years, are going to feel in our homes the consequence of this. Obviously, we are at a time when there is constant war in various regions of the world, which in our peaceful countries, we will notice most significantly, I suppose, as this summer gets hotter and many of you have to pay penalties for using your air conditioning. And in our colder climates in the north of Europe, we're going to feel it as the winter closes in on us and we need to keep ourselves warm. We have a time in Ireland where it's October and there are press releases that say, not today, just give it another few days before you turn on the heating, because you become acclimated to a little bit of heat, and we need to steel ourselves for all of our sakes not to be using so much energy. I was in Gezi Park, Taksim Square, during the Gay Pride movement in Turkey in 2014. My colleague Barbara Chansal, who is an absolutely fantastic LGBTQI+A activist, unfortunately he's not with us in the room, but he did come to Budapest to join the march with us today, which congratulations to you for that we're having it and that we will be able to march together all the way through to the bitter end. None of this nonsense of stepping away early. We're absolutely marching. We're determined to march in solidarity all the way. Barbara's will be with us. And when I met him There was a gay pride day where we marched in Istanbul, and now unfortunately that has also been completely suppressed. They managed to have a very small initiative in Ankara, which was arguably slightly successful. But the problem for the LGBTQIA community all over the world, from things like being accused of being the alphabet generation, that they're not involved in the meaningful issues in the world, is such nonsense, because this is one world. It's one struggle for all of us to have our rights, our human rights, for the dignity of each other. And I'm so honored to be part of this, to have found my path in life, to be part of this movement for all of society, to be able to find elements in each crisis to pick out and feel resonance with, so that we can have a shared, louder voice together. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Tara. And speaking about the march and the pride, we also have some updates that I would like to share with you, also for our security. This is the last update from Reuters, and June 28, with police authorization, a far-right demonstration has begun in Budapest, in the same square in the front of City Hall, where participants in the Pride event will start gathering at 2 p.m. Is planned along the same route announced by Pride, for Pride, to close Sambrecht's Bridge, Liberty Bridge, which the parade intends to cross. If the police do nothing to stop LGBT march, we will do it ourselves by our own means, he said. The Pride organizers are considering changing the announced route. Surveillance camera along Budapest Pride route intended for fines against participants announced by Orban. Police have installed surveillance cameras along the entire announced route of the Pride parade, which will start at 3 p.m. in the Hungarian capital. They will be used to impose hefty fines on participants using electronic facial recognition system, in line with Prime Minister Viktor Orban's warning of legal consequences for those taking part. The system had never been used before in Hungary. Observers doubt whether the system will function properly. His government has not managed far less complex systems, such as waiting lists in public healthcare, noted Gather Party of the Republican Institute. Nevertheless, the LGBT community has promised legal assistance to any participant fined to help them challenge the penalties in court. An image from the facial recognition system will be insufficient as evidence to convict someone in court, said a legal expert from the community. Okay, so these are the last updates, a bit scaring, but if any of you will gather more information, I think it's important to share it. I will have a final word maybe regarding in particular the issue that has been mentioned many times of European Association. After that, I would be very happy if someone of you who would like to introduce yourself and come here, come on stage, we can have a moment to discuss. But what I want to say about the European Association is that many of our organization had issues because in theory, as a non-profit organization, we want to be active for European democracy, active on the rule of law, exactly on the issue we are dealing with today. And we, for instance, we as humans, we had the problem from the very beginning, where should we found ourselves, our organization? And in the end, we were forced to do that in Italy, because there's no such a thing as a European Association. And it's a paradox that when we speak about economic rules and what concern the profit side, we have such a thing as a European society. But once again, and I think this is one of the weaknesses of Europe, when we speak about non-profit organization, there are no adequate regulation. And so this is really something we should campaign for, and which is in touch with, of course, what is happening in Hungary. It has been said also by Peter's intervention, since there is this proposal of law that could allow the government to stop funding from abroad for Hungarian NGO, in particular those who are critic with the government. Well, the European association status could be also a way to bypass somehow the Hungarian proposal of law and have a legal recognition directly at European level, allowing organization to gather funding. So today, of course, was just the beginning to start this idea, and there are many organizations that I think we could work together. We should work together to build a campaign on this, and it's relevant for democracy. It's not just an organizational issue, as you can fully understand. So my last 2 cents for this meeting is really to start thinking together how we should build this campaign, and of course we will circulate some documents that will help you deepen this issue. And we also contacted the rapporteur in the European Parliament, Mr. Dagodinsky, who was the proposer of this first proposal of law in the former legislature. So if you have any other idea, contacts of people and organizations who want to work on it, we should really build an alliance and a campaign to go through this objective. I would like now, if there is anyone who has any question, who would like maybe to introduce himself or herself, we are very happy to discuss together, even know how you discover about this event, what brings you here really. If you want to have a say on this, we are very happy.
If you come here, there will be facial recognition. We send immediately the picture to the police. So be worried, just relax, and we have the room until 1 o'clock. We are not obliged to stay until the very final moment. So, but if you are from Hungary or you came expressly in Budapest from Prague and want to say something and present yourself, and thanks to the intervention of Tara, we enlarged a lot also the issue and the scope of the issue. So even not just for the Prague, but in general, is inspiring you. I mean, there is the possibility to say here. We didn't mention, even if No Peace Without Justice was funded for this purpose, that one of the things that the Hungarian government is planning to do is to abandon the International Criminal Court, which is maybe I would call it the highest or international organization, if you think of how serious are the crimes that the International Court is punishing, genocide, crimes against humanity, war crime. So if the attack against international law is even going against this kind of jurisdiction, I think that this gives us an idea of how far they want to do in dismantling the international rule of law based order, or the weak international rule of law order that is existing today, and it could be even weaker in the coming years. So this is, if you even think about how the Trump administration is threatening with sanctions that are already in place. The European Union did not react by now to the sanctions that the United States of America are already applying against the International Criminal Court officer. I think that this gives us an idea of how serious is the situation. But I mentioned this last point just even to give you the time to reflect if you want to speak, and if not, we are going to close our meeting. I don't know if there are logistical updates. I don't know, Nico, Laura, also where we are going to meet. Of course, everyone can meet in the part of the march that you wish. But Nico, maybe you have some specific indication that one of us that want eventually to march united can give a precise point. Thank you, Sudan. Thank you very much. A point of a meeting point in order to stay together, and the time also. Nico, the microphone. Of course, those who are following us online, they cannot meet us in Budapest. But thank you very much for having followed the discussion, the event. I don't know if you have questions or comments that you can send by as a message in the chat, and Lorenzo could read them to the audience. You can hear.
Before the logistics, there's interventions.
Okay.
Substantives.
Okay. If you want to come here, it's better, but it's wish, because if not, people who are following in remote are not seen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isa. I am also a member of the Freedom Flotilla, and I had the pleasure of and the honor of meeting Tara in the previous missions that we were on. I would just like to remind us all of the history of this movement, of the LGBTQIA+ movement that has been for years and years, that has faced countless repression tactics. And look at where we are right now. I know it looks difficult and it seems to be suffocating, but the progress that has been done throughout the years is remarkable. And me, as a Palestinian right now, who lives in Germany, who lives in Berlin, who is experiencing the repression, I look at the movement and say, it is inspiring. It is inspiring to see how the free people are fighting for what they really believe in and how far they have become, they have reached. It is something that right now, I am learning every single minute, seeing all of you, seeing the steps being taken for the future. And I would like to also use it and implement it to have a better, more inclusive future for all of us. What's happening right now in Gaza is unspeakable. Yesterday, reports showed that the food that's entering Gaza at the moment, the flour that's entering, is mixed with drugs. They are actively trying to drug the people who are starving. And it's not, and this action has been premeditated and thought about for a long while. I have read reports in the past, a new narrative trying to show the Palestinian people that are starving as non-humane. And they've been trying to use starvation as a tool to achieve that. And now introducing this drug that would potentially remove the sense of identity to any person who consumes that drug is a way to amplify that narrative. And we will be hearing about this in the future. This is the reality that we live in right now. And every time anyone speaks about this, they are faced with this repression. So it's important for us to not let this repression stop us, that we stand together in solidarity, that our struggles are connected, and we see that, we feel that. And by us being together, we cultivate the power of the collective. And when we channel it in one direction, we will make a difference. And this is what the government is fearing right now and right here. It's the same government that decided to withdraw from the ICC. It's the same government just for Netanyahu, just so that it could invite Netanyahu in. I talked to a local Hungarian person yesterday night, an amazing person, who told me that those are tactics because of how much they fear us as a free people and how much they want to stay in power. And let me tell you, Netanyahu himself is doing all of this to stay in power, which is very similar to what the Hungarian people are facing by this regime. So I ask us all to once again have our hands together, to fight together, because together they are afraid. And together we will make a difference. Thank you very much.
Questions, intervention? Would you mind to come here to speak so that they can see you? Thank you.
Do you want to start? Are you okay to start? No. No? Okay.
So.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. I was invited to represent the young people of Hungary as someone who grew up here and moved away to a different EU country when I turned 18, like many people do in the face of our current government. I want to thank the previous speakers for describing the situation in Hungary in a very good detail, and I want to take a different approach and talk about intersectionality. Because, as Yazan said, our struggles are interconnected. And I want to ask, how are we supposed to trust the EU institutions to uphold human rights within Europe when they when their economic interests dictate that they must exploit global south countries and support genocide, when they don't make noise about Hungary leaving the ICC just to invite the architect of the genocide in Gaza, or at least one of them. And also with the LGBT struggle, we see more and more of our struggle being appropriated by right-wing movements across Western Europe to to dehumanize refugee communities, Muslim communities, as well as to support the genocidal regime of Israel by portraying them as a safe haven for LGBT people in the Middle East while ignoring their atrocities. I would also like to mention how we fail to take to hold those accountable that benefits in other EU member states from Orban's regime, because of the exploitation of Hungarian and other Eastern European countries, how the capitalists of Western Europe are interested still in the cheap labor from Hungary and preventing it from becoming a free and prosperous nation. So I just want to ask everyone to stay intersectional in their activism and hold these institutions accountable for their hypocrisy and for their inadequate fights for human rights.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me here. I am from Slovakia, and right now our government is going in the steps of Hungary, and they are as well trying to adopt the foreign agent law that will basically cut off funding from non-governmental and non-profit organizations. They have passed a law which basically disables legal transition in terms of personal number, which is gendered, as well as they're trying to enforce sterilization for trans people. And from my point is that if the institution failed to stop Hungary from taking away the rights of LGBT plus people, how are they going to enforce or like prevent it in other countries? And that's also, as Ali mentioned, intersectionality is important because if we cannot uphold democratic values within the EU, how can we support them in other countries? And I guess that's also the case of our prime ministers who are trying to play into all sides, and they want to still take money from the EU, but they are meeting up with anti-democratic leaders such as Putin and recently also Netanyahu. Nobody wants to stop them. Like, they just want to benefit from trade, from oil, and this sends a dangerous precedent for all of the other countries and all of the other leaders, which can basically do that as well if nothing stopping them. So this way, I kind of want to call out all of the European Parliament members and European Commission members to act intersectionarily and to uphold democratic values when it comes to anyone.
Thank you very much. And yes, you're doing a lot, I mean, with your testimonies here. And I don't know if there is any other also question. Okay, yes, other out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's been a mention of other countries. So I could not just sit down there. I am from the Philippines, but I'm now teaching in Rome at the Faculty of Social Science of the Gregorian University. I come here as a member of the board of the directors of No Peace Without Justice. And I just want to say, I'm really inspired by you. And I'd like to thank No Peace Without Justice, because since 2016, No Peace Without Justice has been helping us in our fight against our former president, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who in his war on drugs has killed about 30,000. And our prison houses are now bloated because so many people were put in jail in the name of the war on drugs. And I've been working in this fight by helping former killers who have a spiritual turnaround
and are now preparing to stand as witnesses in the forthcoming hearing in the International Criminal Court. Now, I'm inspired in the sense in the Faculty of Social Science at the Gregorian University, I introduced a subject, social advocacy. How do you push your agenda? And it is a new subject in that Pontifical Gregorian University, and some people tell me, you're introducing, something bad. But I said, okay, let's start from the university itself. We are, even within the church, we need a lot of advocacy. Now, and this is happening in Rome, and this is happening in Europe. I'd like to tell you that your activity now, your defense for human rights, rule of law, could be a very rich fountain for energies in working in other parts of the world. Now, at the same time, if you don't do it, then we will lose hope. In our fight against our dictator, our killer president, we resorted to the International Criminal Court because it's an international institution in Europe, because we trust that you really have a strong fight for advocacy for human rights, for the rule of law. But if dictatorship, autocratic leadership will win in Europe, we will lose hope. I was in the International Criminal Court last week, and the main topic was sanctions, and Hungary welcomed Netanyahu and is planning to, withdraw from the International Criminal Court. I said, that's not a good example for us who are looking up to Europe for these high principles. And now, there are some Filipinos who support our former dictator, Duterte, who is now in jail, in detention center in the ICC. They're mobilizing every day. What is their ambition? The ambition of the Duterte camp is to generate European support in the same way that the Europeans are supporting the Palestinian and Ukrainian. Of course, that's an illusion. But you are being set as a model, right? And so whatever is happening here in Europe will have great impact in the rest of the planet. And so anyway, I'll end up by again thanking you. And I remind you, I'm teaching now in Rome, and there's a space there for you. If you happen to be in Rome, let me invite you to my class. My class is composed of many of them priests. Most of them are priests, some sisters. Most of them come from Africa and who just follow their bishops. But deep inside, there are energies bubbling up. Trying to learn the discourse for pushing for agenda, fighting against corruption. And many of us, many of our students, almost all of us, come from conflict areas, from Africa, Myanmar. So I'm advising a doctoral dissertation from Congo, South Sudan, Senegal, Myanmar, etc. So please help us, and I'll stand up. Within the church, as you know, we're scandalous. We have our own struggle within. And I know some of you are scandalous with the church. We're struggling also. Okay, so thank you, and I'm joining you this afternoon.
Well, thank you. I think we have a lot of places to continue this exchange, including Father Albert class. So I really think this is just the beginning. I don't know if there
an appointment list.
But is there any last intervention, comment, consideration? Yes. Yeah, please, because otherwise those who are following, don't be shy, don't be shy.
Yeah, thanks everyone. My name is Simone. I'm a climate justice activist trying to kind of weave in all their struggles and as best as I can, let's say. I've been glad to meet Tara and Yazdan at Flotilla a couple months ago, and blessed to be there when the madman departed. Yeah, thanks to all the speakers earlier, and the reason I'm speaking only now is because kind of things and thoughts came together, and I don't know, I wanted to reflect on a couple of things. For me, the past few months have been very confusing in terms of determining which fight to put energy into. So I want to echo what has been said earlier, where we do need to stay together, and intersectionality is essential in all our fights. And looking at also the title earlier, I was reading like this kind of the status of democracy in Italy and in Europe, or sorry, in Hungary and Europe. I'm from Italy, though, and I wanted to bring up an example, what happened recently, where leftist parties and organizations in Italy have been infiltrated by state institutions, by the police, that directly wants to know what is happening in these contexts. And then when I what was said earlier about the fact that democracy now has to happen in closed doors, and if it doesn't happen in closed doors, the state tries to infiltrate these contexts with state institutions that are publicly funded, and I think this is scandalous. And then I wanted to reflect on what has been happening in the past week, where we have now military budgets skyrocketing, and this without considering the opinion of the citizens, and even on top of that, essentially just on the pressure of another entity, another state that is completely further away, completely like out of the context we live in. So we have our governments raising budgets by billions and billions without consulting or by essentially neglecting the opinion of people. And on top of that, essentially just in the hands of another dictator from another side of the world. And I think this is scandalous. And what I wanted to reflect is the fact that we're here today for Budapest Pride, which is a convergence not just for LGBTQIA plus activists, but it's a convergence for all people in Europe, all people around the world, and our freedoms. And also want to admire the fact that yes, we are here for such a specific cause that encompasses so much more than what it is. The same goes for Palestine and the anti-militarization movement that is going on, that is currently ongoing, and that we are all, I think, aligned with. I hope we're all aligned with here. And one of the things that I was reflecting on is how these two fights right now, we have Ursula von der Leyen today at or being on our side for when it comes to LGBTQIA plus rights. And then when we go to anti-military protests, we have Ursula von der Leyen being the actual enemy we're fighting against. And I want to applaud us for, and this is one of the reasons why I think we need to stay together, is that we're fighting such a confusing enemy that is so inconsistent in everything it stands behind. We have an enemy that on one side, in one moment is on our side, an enemy that at the other moment is on the other side, and we're fighting against. That's why I think it's very, very important that we do stay together, and intersectionality is at all times in our heads, because otherwise without that, we're not going to be able to understand what is going on and what kind of fight we're actually fighting for. So I want us to go out and march today together and see Budapest Pride is kind of like a capsule that like tries to bring in together all these fights, no matter the fact that we are fighting against a person or an entity that is sometimes on our side, sometimes not on our side. So that's kind of what I wanted to reflect on, and I came together at the end. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to close this because I don't think I deserve to close this, but
Okay. Now, thank you. Yes.
All right. Only for those who are going to the march. It's not compulsory. Yeah. Hi there. You're not coming to the march, I'm sorry. Oh, you are, in which case, you should know that No Peace Without Justice has been assigned a position on the march, and as one of the international participants. So we are behind float number 4, which is marked at point 19. So it's not compulsory. Everybody can go wherever they like. But if you want to stay together as this group, you might as well join us. So we're not going to march directly behind 19. It's going to be hundreds of people, but we will be following float number 4. So which is confusing because it's float number 4, but it's on the map is marked as point 19. But it will have a sign saying float, and they call it here vehicle. So what we consider to be a float on a parade, they call it vehicle. But I guess it's a truck with a with a float.
It's an emergency car.
It's an emergency car.
Yeah. So I think you have the emergency points basically, because there are 4 of them.
Okay, very good.
So it's point number 4, 9, 14, and 19. Then also means the car itself.
Very good.
So the float number 19 it says ambulance number 4.
Oh, well, there you go.
Behind the float number 4, that might be the number 4, because number 19 is ambulance number 4.
No, I think that I just simply misunderstood the instructions because we were talking about vehicle number 4, and I guess it's an emergency vehicle. So I misunderstood. In any case, it will be the last one of the row. If you get lost, right where it says number 1, that's where the volunteers, organizers of the parade will be. So we can ask for them, and I guess we follow what is an emergency vehicle marked number 4, and that
Follow the flow.
follow the flow.
No, because what Lorenzo said, that there's 11 o'clock, because the meeting point, which is by number 13, there's a square itself. There you see. So, and that's where actually the city has it belongs to the city itself, so it doesn't belong to the state. This is why. So they had a demonstration at 11 o'clock. This Armenian NGO, but there was very few people turned out. So nothing
say goodbye to the people.
Yes. So, thank you very much for following on Zoom. We close the meeting online.
Lorenzo?
Yes, thank you very much for joining the meeting online on Zoom. We want to say goodbye to you since we are dealing with issues regarding the march. Thank you once again, and we will send you updates and the recording. Ciao.